So let me give you an example of one of these wisdom teachings and how they affect our health. Here's one of the statements. It says, go to the ant, consider its ways, be wise. And he says, for they, all of these teachings like that one, they are life to those who find them and health to one's whole body. So go to the ant. Consider its ways and be wise. And I want you to see, what is an ant doing?
Yeah.
What are they doing? You see them moving? Are they carrying weight? Doing a little strength training there too? They're there working, getting food for themselves and for others, and carrying it. So it's kind of interesting. You look at the characteristics of an ant, well, they've got the initiative. They've got the persistence. They're industrious. They're moving. They're lifting. They're storing. You look at a passage like this from 3,000 years ago, from the fruit of their lips, people are filled with good things as surely as the work of their hands rewards them. Well, what kind of work are we talking about? All hard work pays off. But if all you do is talk, you will be poor. Well, here's an example of the kind of work that was taking place at the time these teachings were written down. Here's an example. It was Ruth. She went out, entered the field, and began to glean behind the harvesters. Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor. Naomi said to her, go ahead, my daughter. And so she went out, entered the field, and began to glean behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz. He was from the clan of Elimelech. Well, not to go into this deep into the story. I just wanted to you to see what kind of work this is. Again, it's not behind it, sitting at a desk in a nice easy chair in front of a computer. It's not that kind of work at all. And I'm saying that can be hard work, but it has nothing to really do with your physical health and well-being, except it could tear it down if you just sit it. And so you can see what they're doing there. Now, there was a study done in 2004 by the University of Tennessee. They were able to go to an Amish community, and they were able to get about 100 men and women, about equal a number, to wear a pedometer. Wanted to find out, well, how many steps did these people take each day? And it was kind of interesting. They took a lot of steps. Now, most people, they average is about 4,000 steps. That's it, or it may be a little more than 4,000. That's about it. Well, what did they do? The men, an enormous amount of steps every day. And I would say the same thing for the women, because that's what it was right there. Do you see that? Over 18,000, over 14,000. And they ate generous servings of what kinds of food? Do you think they might have had a little apple pie? Oh yeah, sure. Bacon, eggs, all the things that we love. But look how active they were. The percentage of obesity among the general population is 20 to 25%. You know what it is in the Amish community? 5. Yeah. Well, even less, 4. There was at the Cooper Clinic, this was a book written by a couple of doctors from the Cooper Clinic in Dallas. And Dr. Ted Mitchell said that he was working, and he was writing this book on Move Yourself. And one of the things that he did is that he put on a pedometer. Now, he was up and down all morning, and it came about noon. He'd been working for 4 hours, going from one room to another, meeting with patients. He thought he was moving quite a bit. He finally was able to look down at his pedometer. I guess he was pretty busy. He looked down at it, and he said this, that it took the step counter to open my eyes to the deceptively sedentary nature of my work. He had taken 500 steps that morning. That was it. 500 steps. There was a cardiologist. She wanted her patients to put on a pedometer. And this pedometer, they put it on. And she wanted them to tell how many steps they were taking each day. And she was shocked. 1,000. That was it. So how many steps does it really take for the senior citizen to be healthy? You've probably heard statistics about 10,000. Well, if you're 69 or older, research indicates that you're healthy if you can take over 6,600 steps a day. That's it. But some of that has to be structured. You're not going to get it otherwise. And so we have this idea of unmoved, just not motivated. And the roadblocks are the lifestyle that people have. And here's that big part. It's sitting. There was a NASA doctor who wrote a book called Sitting Kills, Moving Heals. And I don't know if you remember seeing this movie. Maybe you haven't seen it.
Oh, yes.
But it was Wall-E. You remember how all the people in this movie, how many steps they took? None. And it almost reminds me, when I go to Walmart, they have these motorized food carts, and it seems like they're always being used. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, maybe that person really does need to use that. And then I'm looking at someone else and I'm thinking, does that person really need to be using that? And so I was just over at Walmart a couple of days ago and I saw this one individual walking around doing his shopping, and he was pretty big, having difficulty walking, but he was not in one of those motorized carts. And I wanted to commend him for it, but I didn't have the opportunity. But he was doing something really smart by walking. Now there's an institute, the Baker Heart Diabetes Institute in Australia. And they did a study where they took these people and they sentenced them to sit in chairs. It was a chair sentence. And what were the results? The study took a group of people who are normally active and imposed a chair sentence on them. And the people they were made to sit for days on end. The team discovered that these people, when they sat so much, their blood sugars became worse. In fact, a lot of things became worse, like blood glucose, cholesterol, triglycerides. The more these people sat, the worse their blood sugars became. Even in people with well-controlled cholesterol, they were elevated. And triglycerides were elevated to the point it's like you've got cardiovascular disease. And that was happening just because they were sitting. Just because they were seated. And so that gives us a little idea about